They say a Hatfield man once stood in a small cabin, shoulder to shoulder with the daughter of Peter McCoy, ready to be married. The minister had barely begun when gunfire exploded through the windows. A volley of bullets tore into the room. The couple fell where they stood. In some tellings, the preacher was struck down and killed as well. The wedding never finished. The feud, they said, would not allow love to cross the line. It's one of the most shocking stories ever told about the Hatfield-McCoy feud. And here's the difficult truth. Maybe it happened. Maybe it didn't. I found more than 20 newspapers across the country carrying some version of it in October of 1889. Different headlines, different wording, same core event. That kind of repetition usually suggests something occurred, but repetition alone doesn't make something verifiable. What we're left with is a story that exists strongly in print, but weakly in records. The newspapers say the killing took place at the farmhouse of Peter McCoy, but Peter McCoy was a common name in Pike County and the surrounding region. There were multiple men by that name living at the same time. The papers never identify which one. They never name his daughter. No age, no first name, no family detail that allows her to be placed on a tree with certainty. The groom is identified as John Hand, sometimes described as a relative of the Hatfields. Very few men with that name can be found in records that are traceable to the area at the time, and none can be conclusively tied to this event. But that doesn't mean he didn't exist. Records from this region and era are incomplete, inconsistent, and often lost. Men disappear from the paper trail for many reasons. Even the location shifts. Some newspapers place the event at Jamboree, Pike County, Kentucky. Others imply it occurred in West Virginia. The details change depending on who printed it. Sometimes the preacher is fatally wounded. Other times he is killed outright. Those inconsistencies raise questions about how carefully the facts were handled as the story traveled. And then there is another question that's hard to ignore. How did a story like this miss all major feud histories? It has everything people are drawn to. Forbidden love, a wedding turned massacre, a Hatfield and a McCoy standing at the altar, bullets through a cabin window, even a preacher caught in the crossfire. This is exactly the kind of story that usually gets repeated, dramatized, and cemented into feud lore. Yet, it does not appear at all in serious feud histories. It is absent from the commonly cited family accounts. It does not show up in the standard timelines that carefully document feud-related killings. For a story with this much shock value, that absence matters. Sometimes mistakes happen in news reporting. Details get mixed up. Names are misspelled. Locations are confused. Facts blur as stories move from place to place. That has always been true, and the presence of errors or inconsistencies does not automatically mean an event never happened, but history also gives us clear examples of how widely believed stories can be entirely false. In 1835, the New York Sun published what became known as the Great Moon Hoax. The paper ran a series of articles claiming astronomers had discovered life on the moon, including strange bat-winged humanoid creatures. The story was reprinted across the country and believed by thousands. It dramatically increased newspaper sales. It was later admitted to be completely fabricated, written to attract readers and make money. More than a century later, in 1938, a radio broadcast of the War of the Worlds was presented as a series of breaking news bulletins. Some listeners believed an alien invasion was actually underway. Though it was fiction, the format made it feel real, and panic followed in some places. It became one of the most famous examples of how media presentation can blur the line between fact and fiction. Both of those stories were believed, both were spread widely, and both were later proven false. That doesn't mean every dramatic story is fake, but it does prove that mass belief, repetition, and widespread coverage are not proof of truth. That opens another possibility. This story could be fake, or at least heavily exaggerated. Newspapers of that era were competing fiercely for readers. Feud stories sold papers. Hatfields and McCoys sold papers even faster. Editors didn't need full verification to publish. They needed drama that would travel well by telegraph. A rumor, a threat, or a minor incident could easily be expanded into a massacre once it reached distant cities. It's possible a real event occurred, and as the story moved from paper to paper, it grew darker and more violent. The most popular story went as follows. October 4th, 1898. Implacable hate. Another chapter in the McCoy-Hatfield feud. Devilish work at a wedding. Bride, groom, and preacher slain at one volley, fired by lurking miscreants. The murderous gang, failing to stop a marriage between families connected with the feud, appealed to the deadly rifle with atrocious effect. Jamboree, which was spelled Jamboree in the article. Pike County, there has been another outbreak of the old Hatfield-McCoy feud, and at least 3 more lives have been sacrificed in the bloody vendetta which has now lasted over 7 years. The place where the killing occurred is nearly 60 miles from a railroad station or telegraph office and 85 miles from here. The shooting occurred at a marriage at the farmhouse of Peter McCoy. His daughter was to be made the wife of John Hand, a relative of the Hatfield gang, and members of both factions had sworn to prevent the union, declaring that it would be an outrage to the feelings of all who were connected with the family. Killed the bride, groom, and clergyman. They were unable to stop the preparations for the wedding, however, as neither Peter McCoy nor Hand had ever been connected with the disputes of the factions and refused to recognize the leaders. Usually might the bridal party assembled in McCoy's house, and just as young Hand and Miss McCoy stood before the minister to be joined in wedlock, a volley was poured through a window, which killed both of them and instantly wounded the clergyman, whose name is unknown. Reports say that the farmer and mountaineers of the locality are preparing for the murderers, but up to yesterday morning, no trace of them had been found. Keep in mind, McCoys and Hatfields married often and without incident, before, during, and after the feud. This is fact. Even the cousin of Devil Anse Hatfield, known best now as Preacher Anse Hatfield, his daughter married a McCoy. Over time, fantasy and reality blended so tightly that separating them became nearly impossible. So where does that leave this story? Somewhere in between. There is enough smoke to suggest something may have happened. There's not enough evidence to say exactly what. The names are too common. The woman is unnamed. The man cannot be traced with certainty. The official records that should exist do not. What is undeniable is that the story was believed, and Mountain People still lives with that reputation to this day. The idea that Mountain People are stupid, savage, and dangerous never fully went away. Warnings still get passed along. Don't break down on a back road. Don't stop after dark. Don't trust the people who live there. Those fears are echoes of the same stories printed more than a century ago. But the truth is simpler than the myth. We are just like everywhere else. There is good and bad here, the same as anywhere. Families, workers, neighbors, people who love, struggle, help each other, and live ordinary lives. The legend painted something monstrous, and generations have had to live under its shadow. The reporters who wrote those stories are long gone, but the damage they did for money still lingers. History was twisted for profit, and once those words were printed, they couldn't be taken back. Fake news and propaganda aren't new. They never have been, and they aren't going away. Sometimes they begin with nothing. Sometimes they begin with something small. Either way, once they take hold, they can outlive the truth. Whether this wedding ended in gunfire or not, the damage was real. The myth became history in the public mind, and more than a century later, we're still trying to untangle where the facts end and the legend begins. Thank you for watching till the end. See you next time on the Hillbilly Files.